Welcome. This is using the Enpublica Data Connector for Power BI Tutorial 2. If you followed along with us from some past tutorials, you'll know that this is a video companion to documentation that we have on the Data Connector's public repo. I'll put the link to that at the bottom of this video so you can get to that. And then what we're going to do in this tutorial is learn how to pivot and adjust data observations. This gives us a format that's typically easy to work with in tools like Power BI. The best way to follow along is to download the starter report for the tutorial. We have the link right here. Once you open the report, it's going to look like this. In order to refresh any of the data, you are going to need to get an API key. Go ahead and look at Tutorial 1, Part 1 for details on that. But once you got that, fire up the Power BI desktop, open up the report. I'm going to do that now, and we'll switch over to the desktop. And let's see how we do this. So, with this line chart highlighted, what we can see is we've got a pretty standard chart. We've got date and value, and we've got a slicer up here where we can select a particular series like GDP or CPI for inflation, unemployment rate, right? Pretty simple, pretty standard stuff. If you look at the data though for these series, what you'll notice is everything is in one table, and all of the values are in one column. If you've ever worked with an historian like Pi from OSIsoft, this kind of date key value or date ID value, that format should look pretty familiar. But there are some drawbacks to using this, what I call single table approach in a tool like Power BI. It means that in order to view the appropriate visual, you're going to need to select a particular series. You're going to have to filter the data, or you would need to create measures. Sometimes the efficiency of the storage format for a tool like Power BI, it might be less than ideal as Power BI uses columnar storage. But, in any event, let's look at an alternate means of storing these series. What I want you to do is from the Home ribbon, click on Transform Data so we can bring up the Power Query Editor. And what we're going to do, we're not going to modify our existing table. We'll go ahead and leave that there for comparison purposes. But we're going to go ahead and call the series that we have. And by the way, I always talk about these little gremlins in these series. In these function calls. Sometimes you bring up the query editor and they appear to be garbled. All you got to do is click on them. You hit refresh preview, and it just goes away. It just seems to be an artifact of the Power Query Editor. But in any event, we're going to go back here to this function call, series observations. And much like we did in the original call, we're going to pass in 3 series. So we'll go ahead and type in GDP and unrate and CPI. If I'll biggie size that a little bit so you can see what that looks like. The written documentation has this if you want to copy and paste it. But this time we're going to go ahead and select some of these other options. Pivot series, true or false. What this means is we're going to pivot the data. You'll see what that looks like in just a minute. Append series name, we'll stick with the default for now, and we'll look at adjusting that later. And then adjust date. I like this function because by default, the FRED website returns data for a given month, but it uses the first day of the month, or for a given quarter, the first day of the quarter. I oftentimes like to have that data aligned as of the end of that particular period. So I've got a little fix here that will do that for us. So let's click Invoke. And the big thing that we're going to see with the result set, and by the way, we'll go ahead and rename this to FRED Series Observation Pivots. So over here in the name of the query, FRED Series Observation, or OBS Pivot, that's what I'll name that. And let me highlight the differences. So same call, right? This is the same call, the original call here. If I can highlight properly. This is the original call, date, series ID, and value, right? All we've done here is we've said, I want the same 3 series, but I want you to pivot the data so that they're each returned as one particular column, okay? And then what you can do if you want to, you can play around with this third parameter, which is the append series name. If we change it to a 1, for example, rather than returning the series ID, we'll actually return the series title, and that's kind of handy. 2 will actually return the series ID with the title in parentheses. It's kind of handy. And then number 3 will return the series title along with the units. So anyway, you can choose which one of those you like. I'll go back to option number 1, for example. But anyway, that's it, right? Seemingly simple stuff, but hopefully a nice productivity boost. What we'll go ahead and do now is close things out. You know what? Before we do that, I think I'll just to match what I have in the written tutorial, we'll put that as a 3. So we'll get back the title along with the unit. So now we'll hit close and apply and get this data loaded up. Okay. So here what you can do, again, we'll leave this page intact. Maybe we'll just create a new page, or no, scratch that. We'll go ahead and just do this. Let's just remove that here, and maybe we can biggie size this chart a little bit. And what we'll do is we'll get rid of date and value from the first table, and let's just add date back from this table, and let's do consumer price index along with unemployment rate and maybe real or gross domestic product, since it's at a very different scale. We'll put that over there. I'll let you continue to kind of tweak and format things, but that's really the basic idea. This is a pretty simple tutorial. Hopefully those little options make life a little bit easier as far as grabbing data from Fred, getting that formatted in the way that you want, and providing at the end of the day, a format that's real easy to work with without having to worry about filtering and creating additional measures when you just don't really need to do that. So thanks so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.